It's been a tumultuous week for the state's oldest and most prestigious university. The two most senior academics at the University of Queensland have tendered their resignations in a humiliating nepotism scandal in its undergraduate medical stream. The university says a misunderstanding about enrolments resulted in favourable treatment being given to a close relative of the Vice-Chancellor, Professor Paul Greenfield. Although the story came to light in the Courier Mail 6 days ago, there are still many unanswered questions. Earlier today, Peter McCutcheon spoke to the university's Executive Director of Operations, Maurie McNahan.
Mr McNahan, it's been a very difficult week for the university after these resignations, a very confusing time also for the public. What exactly happened?
Peter, we had an irregularity that was reported in an admission. It was reported within 24 hours. The Chancellor had ordered an external independent inquiry. When the result of that inquiry came back in, there was a special meeting of the Senate to look at the results of the investigation, and Professor Greenfield and Professor Kenniger offered their resignations, which were accepted by the Senate.
When you say an irregularity, someone got into a course they shouldn't have got into. Is that the case?
What you had was, and I think Professor Greenfield said in his statement, which is out in the public, a close relative was allowed into a course where which was inappropriate.
How can that happen?
Well, in this case, what's happened is it was reported and went within 24 hours to the Chancellor, who immediately reported an independent external investigation, and the Senate then acted very decisively, as you can see.
One of the key elements of integrity is openness. We don't know exactly what happened. There has been a report into this by Senior Counsel Tim Carmody. Why can't the university release that report and just delete those sections that identify people that don't want their identity out there in the public arena?
Well, I think all the key facts are out in the public arena, and I think we probably have enough clarity out there. The second thing with the report, there's two reasons. I mean, the first one's simple. It's a privileged legal document and not to be released. But in practical terms, I could go through that report and I could expunge the names, but the detail in the report would still allow anyone to identify those people that came forward. Those people came forward and trusted the university, and they did. They spoke openly and honestly to the investigators on the basis that this was going to be a privileged legal document that was being done for the Senate to make a decision. And we gave that undertaking, and there's no way we would compromise on the undertaking we gave those people.
Your university's media department has told me that they tendered their resignations in late September. It was considered by Senate on October the 20th. On October the 21st, Professor Greenfield wrote to staff saying that he was standing down next year after he turned 65. No mention of a resignation, no mention of an irregularity. Why was that?
Let me go through the sequence. After the Senate had met and reviewed the report, you can't really act until you've had an independent report completed and you've considered the report, then the resignations were offered at the convenience of the university and they were accepted.
Okay, but by the time Professor
Greenfield... It was about a week after that.
But by the time Professor Greenfield had written to staff saying he was standing down next year, he had tendered his resignation and had been accepted by Senate. Why was there no public announcement?
I think at the end of the day, I suppose I'll make 2 points. One is you're dealing with an extraordinary situation. It was dealt with quickly and decisively, but you were still dealing with an extraordinary situation. And there was a lot of emotion and debate on how we might deal with it. And I would separate two things. One was the action taken by the Senate in response to the report. They initiated decisive action and dealt with this as they meant to do. I can understand why there is media interest in it. And with hindsight, looking back, I mean, I said you were dealing with an extraordinary situation, a lot of emotion, and trying to move through it fairly rapidly and decisively. With hindsight, you might say, yeah, would we have handled it differently? Perhaps we would. We can't go back and do that. All I can say is it was reported and it was acted upon decisively.
Was the university ever planning to make this public?
No.
It was going to keep it hidden?
What the university did was took the report, acted on it, and the two top people in the university have paid a very high price.
But you talk about integrity. Openness is a part of integrity. Isn't it extraordinary that you have a Vice-Chancellor, a Senior Deputy Vice-Chancellor involved in something like this, and the university plan to keep it secret?
The integrity we were concerned about is the integrity of your academic system and acting decisively to protect the integrity of the academic system, and that was done. And the two top people in the university have paid and will continue to pay an extraordinarily high price for that.
I take your point about action, but there was also an action to keep this secret. Was that a conscious decision to keep this secret?
You've always got a couple of options once you've dealt with something, any issue. You can go out and put it all in the media, or you can deal with it, the punishment or the penalty is applied, and continue on.
Don't you think this is something that the public should be told about a public institution like the University of Queensland?
I can understand the media interest in it.
No, I'm not talking about the media, I'm talking about the general public. The general public, the people who pay their taxes, that have an ownership of institutions like this. Isn't this something that they deserve to know about?
What everyone needs to know is, did we act when it was reported to us? Or did we try and did we avoid acting? That's what people need to ask us. And what they need to say is, if you ever had another incident occur of any sort, what would you do? We'd do exactly the same again in terms of acting decisively.